On March 23rd, 2025, a 47-year-old mother, Andreea Mottram, was found stabbed to death inside of a rental home in Washington City, Utah. Her body was discovered by a cleaning crew. Evidently, she had been stabbed over 14 times. But get this, guess who stabbed her? They're thinking who stabbed her were two teens, one of them being her adopted daughter, Bella. Bella was only 16 at the time, and then Bella's friend, Abigail. In other words, they call her Jay. Jay was 17 at the time. Both are facing charges of first-degree murder, obstruction of justice, and theft of a motor vehicle. How do you kill your mother? I don't understand that. So evidently, Adrian's husband found a diary entry in November of 2024 where Bella expressed that she hated her mother and she had a desire to kill her. Let's run this clip.
Alleged plans for murdering her mom. Let's get you a timeline of what police are working with right now. This is the victim, Andreea Mottram. She was found stabbed 14 times in the upstairs of a home in southern Utah on March 23rd.
They hate you. You're gonna die. I don't want to do this.
A cleaning crew at a VRBO vacation rental in Utah made a chilling discovery, and it has put police on a multi-state manhunt for the suspects, who are two teenagers. Now, before we get to this diary entry that the victim's daughter, who police say killed her, and what it said about her potential alleged plans for murdering her mom, let's get you a timeline of what police are working with right now. This is the victim, Andreea Mottram. She was found stabbed 14 times in the upstairs of a home in southern Utah on March 23rd.
I'm Andreea Mottram from California.
Mottram worked for a Romanian-American social justice organization. This is video from their YouTube page, and according to her Facebook page, she lived in Auburn, California, which is near Sacramento. Police say she traveled to Washington, Utah. That's in the southern part of that state. It's a few hours from Las Vegas, and she rented a house. Police say on the 23rd, a cleaning crew arrived at the home, and you can see the kind of neighborhood it was in on Google Maps, very residential, and police say when the cleaning crew arrived, they noticed the garage door was open. Then they went inside, they found belongings still there as if the person who rented the place never left. When the cleaning crew went upstairs, that is when they found Mottram stabbed more than a dozen times. Police were called. They found a murder scene with a lot of evidence, which pointed them to two people. One of the suspects, 16-year-old Mihaela Sorescu, she goes by Bella. Police say she is Andrea's daughter. The other suspect is Bella's 17-year-old friend, Abigail Flanagan. She goes by Jay. According to police, not only did Bella and Jay stab Bella's mom to death, they also tried to flush her two cell phones and purse down a toilet. And it appears from court documents that officers believe that they found the knife that the two allegedly used in the killing. It was in the sink, washed off, but still, there were trace amounts of blood on it. A key...
How do you do this to your own mother? I don't get this. How do you do this to your own mother?
Piece of evidence. Now, police also found bloody pants crumpled up into a ball in a bathroom. They say those pants had the imprint of a bloody knife blade on them. Police also note, based on the size of the pants, that they believe they belonged to Bella. Now, it is unclear who was the one who allegedly stabbed Bella's mom to death. Both Bella and Jay, they are facing the same charges. Now, here is what we know.
Good.
About Bella and Jay. The two suspects in this case, 16 and 17 years old. Both did spend time in residential treatment facilities. Police say Bella had lived at a residential treatment facility for 3 years, and she was currently enrolled at a facility in this county in Utah where police found her mom murdered. Jay had also been, according to police, in a treatment facility, but police also say that Jay's parents had taken her out and she was living in California. Police say that both Bella and Jay were staying at this vacation rental where Andreea was killed. So you can see this timeline coming together. Now to the diary that Bella's father told police about. The man police say is Frank in documents tells them that in November, he found a diary that Bella had written where she talked about how she hated her mom and that she wanted to kill her. Now, he also says that Bella had a history of violent behavior. Now, after the alleged murder, police say Bella and Jay allegedly stole the car that Andreea rented to get to that house in Utah. The teens then went on a multi-state drive. They went from southern Utah to Las Vegas. That's about 2.5 hours away. Then They allegedly drove from Vegas to Paramount, California. That is near Los Angeles. That is another 4.5-hour drive. The two teens were on the run for nearly 2 weeks until their arrest. And police say on Friday, April 4th, Bella and Jay were returned to Utah, where they will face charges of first-degree murder, obstruction of justice for allegedly trying to hide evidence, and theft of a motor vehicle for allegedly taking the rental car and making it all the way to Southern California. Adds to how disturbing these allegations are is the days leading up to Andrea's murder. According to police, Andrea and Jay, one of the suspects, traveled together from California to Utah to visit Bella, who was staying at that treatment facility there. The group then spent multiple days together until they say the two teens murdered Bella's mom. And based on the timing of when that cleaning crew showed up in the morning after police say she was killed, it was on the last day they had the rental. It is unclear what allegedly motivated these two teens to kill, especially a mom who appeared to be doing what she could to help a troubled teen. According to Andrea's Facebook page, she seemed like the type of person who put others first in all aspects of her life. She listed herself as a hospice social worker and a mother in, quote, 3 special ways. On the day police say she was killed, she posted this picture in the afternoon with the caption, "This is almost 48." Joining me now is former NYPD detective and host of the Gold Shields podcast, Tom Smith. Thanks as always for taking the time to be here on Law and Crime. There's a lot to unpack in this case. Just a brutal murder of a woman who seemed like she had dedicated her life to helping others. But from the court documents we've seen, there was a lot going on at this crime scene beyond just the victim who was found upstairs originally by this cleaning crew. It seems like there was an attempt to try to clean up the crime scene, try to hide some of the evidence, but at least from my perspective, reading these documents, that the suspects did not do a good job in that case.
Yeah, and that happens a lot when you have, in this case, 2 kids who just, committed a horrific murder. Trying to cover it up is not in their ballpark, so they don't know what to do. They don't know how to do it. And they're in a full-blown panic at that time. So that's where all the mistakes get made. And then they probably attempted to do it and then just panicked too much and then just decided to get out of the area. But you see that a lot when it comes to, child perpetrators committing a crime or people who, just don't normally, obviously, go into that kind of mindset of committing a murder. That happens quite often with messy crime scenes or attempts to cover it up.
Yeah, because it does seem this apparently happened on the last day that they were staying at this vacation rental. There's this diary that we'll talk about in just a moment, an entry from November where Bella, the daughter of the victim, allegedly wrote that she hated her mom, that she wanted to kill her mom. So this is something that apparently looks like it was planned. In the experience that you've had in these types of cases, not to kind of give the background of how people who are accused of murder do these things, but what are some of the ways that people typically cover up crime scenes when that shows that they know what they were doing?
Yeah, the blood is the hardest part to get up, but they'll do that. They'll position the body in certain ways. They'll get rid of weapons if there are any, obviously. They may actually try to stage an area as well to make it look like a break-in. So they'll break a window. They'll turn over certain furniture, to make it look that way, to get it off of the focus on them. So there's numerous ways that crime scenes can either be cleaned up or staged. And that's what looks like it took place here. But when you have, like I said, people that, are in a panic and who knows where their minds are at that point, a lot of messy mistakes get made. And that's where detectives and investigators and district attorneys, that's where they key on when it comes to gathering evidence.
What are other pieces of evidence from this crime scene, from what we've gathered from these court documents, that stick out to you that will be important as this case moves more into the prosecutor realm going forward?
Well, the manner of death, obviously, any weapons that might have been there, any other DNA that was there. When crimes are committed, the people committing the crimes also sometimes sustain an injury. So you want, to collect every type of DNA that's there, blood, saliva, sweat, anything that might be there that will contribute to showing that these two other people were involved in the crime.
And before we get to what we know about these suspects, their relationship with the victim, they did allegedly try to get away by taking a rental car. They drove roughly 7-8 hours. Eventually, they get to Los Angeles. And I noticed that there were certain checkpoints along the way that police noted that they picked up the license plate of this car. What are some of the pieces of technology that people trying to flee a crime scene typically don't realize law enforcement has in following a manhunt like this?
Yeah, the LPRs, which are license plate readers, are the biggest asset that law enforcement has because they are all over the place. Some are visible and some aren't. On bridges, on highways, on tolls, on just intersections that are able to pick up license plates. So to track, and you know where they started. So that is a big, big part of getting the evidence needed when it comes to tracking them, because you know where the car started from. So you just kind of methodically work your way from there, any, highways that they might have had access to. So you just kind of, it's a puzzle, and you just put one piece together at a time, leading to where, they end up.
We'll talk about the suspects here because you have Bella, who is the daughter of Andreea Mottram, who's the victim in this case, and then her friend, Abigail J. Flanagan. Both had spent time in what was being described.
Now, I was thinking that one was a boy, the Abigail, the one who is not the daughter. I thought that was a boy at first, but evidently we talking about two girls. This is sick.
As a residential treatment facility. It's unclear what their background is when it comes to mental health. We know that in some cases, Bella had a history of violence, according to her father in this diary entry. It seems like a tragic case where you have a mom who is still trying to do something for her daughter who is facing a lot of challenges. From how you've seen some of these cases play out before, I mean, how can a parent kind of handle these situations? And it's hard to predict that something like this is going to happen, but certainly there was a history there and a dynamic that it appears this family was struggling with.
Yeah, it's sad. All events like this and crimes like this are always sad, but it's a different kind of level when you end up killing a parent or killing a child. That level of evil is really hard to kind of work your way through. But what they're going to do is just work backwards. And me and you have had these conversations numerous times, Chris, with investigations where you have the crime and you're just going to work backwards into the background of these two individuals, in their mental health capacity, in their criminal history, in their social history. Are they on social media? What else are they posting about? But a deep dive into the backgrounds and is going to be key in this. And then you're going to get into their relationships and their communications with one another. It's going to be very interesting as this goes on of who actually brought this up, whose plan was it, who wanted it done. That may really come out, and I think it will. It usually does along the lines of the investigation.
Social media will get you caught up every time. Talking too much on social media. It's a wrap for them too, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and there's this diary entry that the father of Bella has come forward with, saying that she said that she hated her mom, that she wanted to kill her mom, and I guess this was back in November. Teenagers say a lot of things, and certainly this is a teenager who has faced a lot of challenges, has had some mental health issues. How do you decipher what is teenage rhetoric and then actually a plan for alleged murder?
Well, what else is found? That's going to, you have that diary entry, but what else contributes to that? What other corroborating evidence do you have that's going to link it all together? And that's what they're going to do. Social media posts, as I mentioned, is going to be a big part. But, the writings and social media posts are all great circumstantial evidence. You still have to prove that they did it. And that's where the other evidence that's either at the crime scene or other contributing factors are going to come into this. That's all great evidence to build a motive case, but you still need the evidence linking them to this murder.
Should the father, and I think at this point it's hard hard to put this on somebody, but when you notice a diary entry like this, is there anything law enforcement could have done in November had the family come forward? Or what's the approach that a parent should take when they read something like this?
Yeah, that's a tough one. There's no crime in writing down.
I think when somebody reads something like this that their kid wrote, I don't think that they would take that seriously. Like he said, kids say, especially teenagers, awful things all the time. The father probably didn't take it seriously. And here we go, fast forward to today, the mother is dead. I don't blame the father.
And you being mad at your parents, we don't know what level that was at. And again, like I said, is there any other contributing factors to this? But just reading a diary entry would be tough to have the police involved. They may recommend a counselor to go to or a group session to go to, something along those lines. But there isn't actually a criminal act in just writing something in your diary.
If you were one of the police officers in Washington County, Utah, right now, who have these two suspects, you're going to interview them, ask them what happened. What are some of the questions that you would lead with to set the tone in that interview?
Well, you're going to start with the relationship between, like starting with the daughter. What was the relationship like? What was your treatment like? What did you go into? All those. And then I'm going to get into the relationship with the other person and see how this all started. When was these discussions started? When did they begin? And who started them? Whose idea? All of that is going to contribute to who did what and charges and who may flip on who. That's when you have two people, one of them always gives up a little bit more than the other one to save their butt. So I would be keying on that of where did this start and who started it?
They're both facing the same charges right now. We don't know who the one was who stabbed this woman allegedly 14 times. Does that make much of a difference as this case goes forward if they're both facing these same charges?
No, it shouldn't. But unfortunately, in the criminal justice system, it will when it comes to lesser degree crimes or plea bargains or who becomes a witness. Unfortunately, that is part of this. So if one of them did actually flat out just do the stabbing, that's going to be more of a factor when it comes to charges. Do you want someone pinpointing and sealing up this case? The other eyewitness that was standing there while this was all going on? Yes. And unfortunately, when it comes to these cases, those kind of deals are made.
Yeah, and I know that there were some sweatpants that had an outline of a knife, and it was because of the sizing, Bella's pants, police believe. Is that enough to, if let's just say she's not talking, let's say neither are talking, neither are saying who did it, is having sweatpants with an outline of a knife enough to go forward and say that this was the person who did it?
That's tough. That's a rough one, and that's where detectives and district attorneys and evidence collectors and forensics all come into play. Do I think it as a detective? Would I charge her with it? Absolutely. And then let it kind of play out and let the investigation continue. But, when it comes to gathering evidence, there's so many factors when it comes to it. And you hope that the DNA part and the technology we have today extracts something even more that puts her right at that scene in those pants.
They hate you. You're gonna die. I don't want to do this.